this is Christina Barn. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barn. Today, we're going to be talking about the Biden administration. Yesterday, I mentioned that they were, I think maybe the past 2 days I mentioned it, but they were talking about building some more border wall, and they got I don't want to say demolished, but there were some people on the left who were criticizing the Biden administration for walking it back. And so now they're kind of walking it back. I'm like, oh, well, we didn't change any sort of policy. But these funds that we're like putting toward the border wall now are just things that are already allocated and we got to use it, which you had everything tied up in lawsuits for environmental crap. So it's not that we know you didn't want to build it before. Now something has changed, and we know the situation is so bad that you feel that you have to do something, but you have to save face because you are aligned. You're crazy yourself, and you're aligned with a lot of crazy people who I think a wall is literally racist. So they're in a bit of a pickle. Also, I want to talk about how Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is still being like promoted by some groups like CPAC, and even though he's running as an independent, and that's no reason to not have conversations with people. However, there's not anything. The C and CPAC, I believe it's for conservative, or at least that's what it's supposed to be about. I could be wrong, but yeah, Conservative Political Action Conference. I was pretty confident about that. I just double checked. So I don't understand. Like, there's isn't much conservative about Robert Kennedy Jr. He's had some pretty extreme stances and stuff. I know there's some things that people like, and I can address them, and I've addressed them in the past. But him running as an independent is gonna not be good for our side. So I'm not sure what they're doing here. Are they just he's been on Joe Rogan, a bunch of other places, that just the popularity of the moment, so you want to and you were able to book them, and so it is what it is. But it's weird. It's very weird to me. Also, Ann Coulter was on a podcast, and she's like, I said in the description, out for blood, and perhaps that's a two-way to say it, but she's very blunt about the things that she hasn't liked about the Trump administration and stuff that they did. But they talked at length about who she thought was going to win and what happens if he's a nominee. So I want to play a clip or two because it's pretty interesting. It's on the PBD podcast. It's Peter Bet David's podcast. So it's already got 229,000 views on it, and so I got most of the way through it before we started today. But and I also want to talk about this really awesome DeSantis moment on the campaign, where if he didn't pay to make this happen, and it's so perfect, you question things, but he's got to turn it to an ad. He's just got to turn it to an ad. It's so good. So anyway, before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktunes.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktunes.com/donate. Cost to stream, cost to run my website, all the stuff. So if you like what I do here, please consider checking out that link in the description. If you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, or if you're watching on Facebook, you guys can send stars. If you're watching on YouTube, you guys can send super chats. So you guys can do that. Check out different merchandise that we have at the store. Check out different books and stuff that I have. It's the weekend, so get something that you new to read. I have 17 books actually. One is my is a faith book, How to Slay Your Fear, Overcome a Spirit of Fear, and the other one is a uh of course, Guys Bluntly Against Abortion. That's my other nonfiction book. The rest are fiction, and they're still entertaining. You can find me out on Amazon and read something over the weekend. I got a good book that I'm gonna be checking out myself. So, let's all expand our minds and imaginations. Uh, I do not have a meme for you guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and just jump right into the stories. And I'm not gonna talk long about the border situation, but as I already said, the border crisis is incredible, and we have no idea probably what the real numbers are, but they're breaking records all the time for crossing, and some people are drawing attention to how bad it is. Elon Musk was at the border the other day and saying that we need to have more citizen journalism and other kind of stuff, to draw attention to this. And obviously, he has a lot of followers and a big name and a big platform and a lot of money. So I'm grateful that he's drawing attention to it. But I've talked about how it's impacting, local areas in Michigan up here, but of course it affects border towns. They've been sending migrants or illegal aliens to, New York and Chicago. We talked about people angry, furious about, there was a football team that was going to use it, and they kicked them out so they could encamp migrants there. So people just had enough. People just had enough, and I'm sure the Biden administration is absolutely aware that people have had enough, including people on their side who vote blue. And they say vote blue no matter who, but it's like, okay, but if the who is a vehicle for just the bad policies, like the blue is the problem. The blue is that you have these people who are energized to do this not good thing, and bad things continue happening. So one day you got to wake up and switch sides, or vote differently. I mean, definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So if you want to change in what's going on in this current situation, then you need to vote accordingly. So I assume that the Biden administration is not lost on them how bad the issue is and how much they're getting creamed on it. And it's good that DeSantis, he sent some to Martha's Vineyard, but Abbott, has really been sending, busloads out, and more people are sharing the pain and becoming hyper aware of this issue. So Mayorkas decided to he announced that they were going to build some more border wall, and people on the left were pretty upset about this. And apparently the White House, they still are of the opinion that walls are bad. And so the press secretary got a little bit embarrassed the other day, but nothing new. I actually don't know if she's capable of being embarrassed, but here's Karine.
If the border wall is ineffective, why is the Homeland Security Secretary saying that it's necessary to prevent unlawful entries into the United States?
I have not seen that full statement. I know. I hear you. I'm just saying I've not seen his full statement on that. What I can speak to is for the president. The president's been very clear that he doesn't believe it's effective. He answered that question of your colleague. That's what I can speak to. That's what we're going to talk about. And we've actually said there are smarter ways and more effective ways in dealing with this.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so she's didn't even, I'm sure she had to have known about the statement going out. It was a valid question that she should have been prepared for. But they still, there's been so much conversation about walls being bad and walls being mean, and this isn't the way. And they look at it as a moral issue rather than I don't know, national security risk, a sovereignty issue, an economic issue. It's just mean. The walls are mean, and even Karine has like tweets from the past about walls being mean, and that's just the way that they look at it. Like, so many people have so many emotions geared toward the immigration issue, particularly when Trump was in office, and they like, oh, they're separating the kids. There was a picture on Time magazine with a child screaming, and Trump's just looking down at the child. That child was never separated from their mother, by the way. I think immigration was just talking to the woman at the time, and they just took, and she was on the ground just crying. She was still with her mother, and they snapped that photo and then used it on Time magazine because they wanted to paint Trump as a monster, which and people had so much emotional attachment to that. And it's like, but we are exacerbating a problem, and just creating more incentive for these coyotes to bring over these people who were not with their parents, and these kids and different women and other folks are sexually assaulted and etc. And we're just incentivizing these people. And I brought up the other day how some Congress people have brought up the fact that these people come over with the help of these cartels and stuff, but their debt isn't totally paid once their feet get here. They're still indebted to them. So it's like, what, all these people are here and they're in league or in debt to the different cartels. This isn't a good situation. Talked yesterday about how you have people who are on the terrorist watch list who've been caught at the border. And so who is coming over who was not caught? There's so many issues going on, but walls are mean, etc. So they can't just be like, no, it's a good idea to build a wall. It was always a good idea, and the walls were never racist. It's just, and by the way, like Donald Trump, he came out 2016. This was like his big issue. That's why Ann Coulter predicted he would win and thought he was gonna be good and all that stuff. And she was like so for him and stuff, even at the expense of like other social issues that were really important to most conservatives. She said like an egregious line to like he could perform abortions in the White House or something, and people were like utterly appalled. But that was the number one issue for her and lots of people, and she could see how much it was playing, to the public. And by the way, there's plenty of Democrats who care about the border and as well. Like the media will go along with Democrats saying that it's racist, but that doesn't mean that's how the average person feels about it. So, Trump came in like a rocket and he just dominated the field because you had all these other Republicans are squishy about amnesty and all the other stuff. And Trump just, he already had the high name ID, and they came with the issue that most people already agreed with, right? But before like it became such a you're a bad person because you want to build a wall, there were other people who were talking about that we need to do something about immigration and border security and other things like that. Like Hillary and other folks like that, they weren't to the degree of open borders that they just kind of accept now. It didn't used to be like that. At least people would try to save face, and it wasn't you're a bad person because you want to secure the border. Now whether they really wanted to truly do that is a different story, but it's never been like how it is right now. It's never been like how it is right now. So the Biden administration, they're incompetent, sure, but they're not totally incompetent. Like some of this has to be what they're willing to allow for ideology. And I think when it comes to Biden with that, he just thinks that there's really no repercussions, so he can act whatever way that he wants to in the end. But this issue, it's getting so bad that they have to reverse course a little bit. So now they're getting pushback on rolling back some environment. It's a bunch of like environmental things. Like they're rolling back different rules that had the wall building tied up. So now they're going to allow some of it to be built, some more to be built. Some people are joking like, I bet Biden's building more wall than Trump. But I don't know if that's true, but that's just a joke going around right now. But Mayorkas, who put out a statement, made comments and stuff. Now he's like, well, people are taking my statements out of context. So here's a little bit of him.
I want to address today's reporting relating to a border wall and be absolutely clear. There is no new administration policy with respect to the border wall. Allow me to repeat that. There is no new administration policy with respect to the border wall. From day one, this administration has made clear that a border wall is not the answer. That remains our position, and our position has never wavered. The language in the Federal Register notice is being taken out of context, and it does not signify any change in policy whatsoever.
Probably not altogether, but they are making a change by building some of the wall. So there, it seems like they're just saying, well, we just kind of have to do it because in 2019 these funds were allocated for it, etc. That doesn't just because the funds are allocated for it, they allocate funds for stuff and don't touch it all the time and don't use it and just pass more bills to do whatever the heck they wanted. That happened with COVID. They kept passing stuff and money hadn't even been spent yet from previous bills. So stop playing. Like you could just if you had to roll back these restrictions, these environmental restrictions, so you could be able to do it. So, I mean, they did this with a there's lots of things that the Trump administration did that obviously Biden administration didn't like, so they reversed course, put a hold on it, brakes or whatever. That happens with lots of things, but when it's something that they want to do and there's maybe not a popular um look, they're like, well, we just had to do this, like with the Afghanistan exit, like, well, this is the date that the Trump people said, so we had to keep our agreement. You guys, you don't care about Trump's word and agreements with other things all the time. So this you I mean, Biden for some time has been wanting to pull out of Afghanistan, and they just did it in the most incompetent sort of way. And they're just like, well, we had to do it this way because we had that hard date. We just had to respect and honor our word. Like, what do you care about Trump's word? What do you care about the Trump administration's word? Seriously. So the fact that these funds, again, were passed in 2019 and them saying, well, we got to use it. No, you don't have to use it. You could keep it up with lawsuits and other stuff and give reasons why you can't build it. But you're in a pickle because you've created too large of a problem. So you want to save face a little bit. So you'll go ahead and do it. And now you're getting some blowback right now from your people on your side, people like Beto O'Rourke and other folks. But as some time passes and you get really criticized for having open borders, don't think that Biden will not mention that they built some border wall. Don't think that Biden won't bring that up. So they're playing games, and it's just kind of funny because they're just too cowardly to admit that not everything Trump did was bad and that he had some good ideas and that they've been screwing the pooch and they need to reverse course in order to secure our border or at least make it better than what's going on right now. But they don't have the courage to tell the American people that. They don't have the courage to tell the media that. They don't have the courage to tell Beto and other people who can stick it that. So they have to kind of walk it back. So much of the press secretary is like, oh, well, I didn't see the statement. Well, people have been talking about it. People are going to ask you about it. I'm sure you've been prepped on it. I know you're incompetent, but I don't think you're. Can you be that incompetent? I mean, maybe, maybe, but you should have known that was gonna be the talk of the day, the question of the day, man. Anyway, let's move on. So, CPAC is apparently gonna be hosting something with they're gonna do Vivek and also Robert Kennedy Jr. And I don't understand this. I mean anything to sell tickets, right? I guess. But Alexandria, Virginia, and Virginia is, and this is a kind of a really crazy thing to do in Virginia because it is a blue state. I mean, but people you had like crazy stuff that they were doing in Virginia. And then you had Youngkin, who's pretty safe, kind of Republican, I think, to maybe the people who were there, and so you get moderates, on the side and stuff, and independents and stuff. So CPAC, meeting, and I mean, I guess that's where they have a lot of stuff anyway. But if they're gathering some moderates or some people on who might be independents or interested in Kennedy, those are votes you might pull in another way in the general or whatever kind of election. So I don't. Anyway, Kennedy is not conservative, but today CPAC announces presidential candidates Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Vivek Ramaswamy, and other key influencers to speak at the CPAC Investor Summit to Save America in Las Vegas, Nevada. Oh, okay, so it's actually been Nevada. I'm sorry, but they start out with Virginia, but I guess it's just, I guess where they're from out of this event will bring together the most important voices in the conservative movement who stand for American values and freedom. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has a unique voice in advocating. Nevada's a close race too. That's another one that's on the edge. So why play the game? Um, for the defunding of weaponized bureaucracy and ensuring the constitutional right of medical freedom. Kennedy joining such an important event is a reflection of the splintering of the left wing coalition that has gone full woke Marxist to the point the traditional liberals don't feel welcome anymore. The breakup of left wing coalition is occurring while the conservative coalition has hopes of adding more blacks and Hispanics who reject gender insanity, the effects of terrible economy, and the destruction of the once safe neighborhoods. Match Schlapp, the chairman of CPAC, stated, we are also honored to have Vivek Ramaswamy, a true patriot, blah blah blah. That was all the stuff about Kennedy. I apologize for the confusion when I first started, but yeah, they're gonna have this in Nevada. So again, that's another one that's like on the edge, and you definitely don't want to draw support away from Republicans or actual conservatives. So I can appreciate the medical freedom aspect from Kennedy, but it depends what the heck you're talking about. And he is an extreme environmentalist. He says he's not going to take away guns, and maybe he won't take away guns, confiscate guns, but that's what, you know, Republicans will go to. Oh, they want to take away your guns. And Democrats are like, we don't want to take away your guns, but um, they want to. You know how people on the right are like incrementalism with abortion and things, and the goal is ultimately a ban. There's people on the left who maybe would like to just get rid of your guns and stuff, but they can't quite get there. And I'm not saying he's the one who wants to do that, but I'm just talking broadly. Like there's an incrementalism system as going there as well, because the position of take away your guns and stuff, that is so unpopular. That might be the one of the most unpopular things you could say if you were full on let's start taking everyone's guns away. um that's the line that Beto, was going with when he was running for president, wanted, some hysterical donation dollars from really radical people, but it didn't turn out too good for him when he tried to run for the governor of Texas. So people, they might say crazy stuff on the guns at first in the primary to get some clicks and stuff, but it doesn't turn out too well usually, going into a general, especially as we have nonstop access to video and the internet and to pull up any sort of thing. So Kennedy has said he doesn't want to take your guns and other things like that, but he does have some intense feelings on the subject and people who, I don't know, are in the NRA and other things like that. So I mean, here an old tweet of his back in 2015. Let's be honest. The NRA is as responsible for the MSD child murders as if they pulled the trigger. NRA has turned Second Amendment into a suicide pact for our children. When do we deal with the NRA? So, let me just show you this old tweet. So, there's stuff like that. You're like, oh my gosh, that's extreme way to feel. It's extreme, like people getting their feelings about a wall. A wall's racist, and the NRA, which there are way better pro gun groups than the NRA. All the like libertarian leaning like Republicans stuff that I know do not like the NRA. They prefer other groups. But the power of the NRA is the fact that they just can get together people really fast on an issue that so many people agree with. So many people are pro their Second Amendment and like to go out to the shooting range or like to be able to protect themselves or protect their families and etc. Like you can go all over the place and find people of all different backgrounds at a shooting range. So it's not a popular position. So you're running to be the president, you're running, You want to be an option to a lot of people running as a Democrat, which he's now running as an independent. So, he's saying some, I'm not going to come for your guns. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to restrict people's access to firearms. It doesn't mean that you're not going to come after ammo. It doesn't mean, that you're not going to issue other sorts of bans or red flag laws and other things like that. So, they do things incrementally, just as like we really want an abortion ban, but we'll start with 15 weeks. We'll go to 6 weeks, and it will just keep moving. It's just a different approach. So just letting you know. But he's also been very aggressive about how he feels about people who aren't into the climate agenda.
I think they should be in jail. I think they should be enjoying 3 hots and a cot at The Hague with all the other war criminals who are there.
What about politicians, people who deny, who express skepticism?
They're selling out the public trust. And, I think those guys who are doing the Koch brothers bidding and who are against all the evidence of the rational mind are saying that global warming doesn't exist, that they are contemptible human beings, and that, I wish that there were a law you could punish them under. I don't think there's a law that you can punish those politicians under, but I think the Koch brothers should be prosecuted for reckless endangerment? Absolutely. That's a criminal offense, and they ought to be serving time for it.
All right, well, thank you very much.
I think they should.
Contemptible human beings. So, prosecuted. Wow. So if they're for the climate deniers and people like Koch brothers who spread, I don't know, information about not believing in global warming and other things like that. So what if people believe the same thing about him and his vaccine skepticism? I'm sure a lot of people feel that he's a contemptible human being who should be censored and perhaps even jailed for his spreading of what they would deem as misinformation to people in life or death situations when people need to get the jab and stuff. So and that was obviously some years back. He looked a bit younger there, so maybe he's pumped the brakes a bit on those very radical positions for his enemies. But I don't trust him like that. So I don't trust him like that. So he's also said some opinions about abortion on the campaign trail. Now he's pro-choice, and he listed up to a certain point, but then he had to end up walking it back. So I'm going to play this interview.
Would you sign a federal protection to protect the rights that were in the Roe precedent if you were president?
I believe that a decision to abort a child should be up to the women during the first 3 months of life.
So you would cap it at 15 weeks?
Yes.
Or 21 weeks?
Yeah, for 3 months.
So 3 months. You would sign a federal cap on that?
Yes, I would.
Okay. So not unlimited access to abortion, as many in the Democratic Party.
I think the states, once a child is viable outside the womb, I think then the state has an interest in protecting that child. That supersedes, and I think that the state has an interest at every level, but at some point, I'm for medical freedom. I think individuals ought to be able to make their own choices.
Which is why I'm surprised to hear you say you'd cap it.
Well, because, I think at some point you'd say, the state, I would personally not. I think the states have a right to protect a child once the child becomes viable. That right increases. And I think there's very, very few abortions that are performed after that period of time anyway. Most abortions are performed during the first 3 months of life. And I think that's when, I fought harder than anybody in this country for medical freedom.
So, viewing abortion as simply like a medical freedom position, like, doesn't make, well, you could see she's pushing, he believes in the medical freedom of the woman to be able to do it. And he's saying states should be able to have the right to protect the child. Um, and the states already have that ability, though. At least, especially right now, they can decide to do it or to not do it, right? So that's their prerogative. That's different than saying um, the child there has a right to life, therefore the state should protect them. So it sounds like a I don't like it, but and I don't think the women should do it. By the way, when it happens later, it's very rare. So so if we allow it up to like 15 weeks or whatever, like that's going to cover most abortions anyway. And it doesn't sound like much would really change in the position that he's kind of talking about, but he got backlash for that interview. And so his campaign spoke out about it. I'm reading from the Life News site. They got some quotes from his campaign, which they are very 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 pro-life site with a heavy bias, just FYI. But Mr. Kennedy misunderstood a question posed to him by an NBC reporter in a crowded, noisy exhibit hall in Iowa State Fair, a campaign representative said in an email to Life News. Mr. Kennedy's position on abortion is that it is always the woman's right to choose. He does not support legislation banning abortion. So if they don't support any legislation banning abortion, then that is a position that, as she noted, that most Democrats have, that it should be allowed basically up until the moment of birth. And again, you could say that happens women don't do that, or it's very rare in the later terms or whatever. It depends what you mean by rare, because we're still talking upwards of like 10,000 babies and stuff. But and not all of them are for medical reasons or medical emergencies. There are healthy women who abort viable, healthy babies. But anyway, that statement is consistent with the position Kennedy had said previously during the campaign. In June, Kennedy Jr. confirmed he supports killing unborn babies and abortions. Responding to a voter's question, Kennedy said he is pro-choice and supports bodily autonomy. The only thing I can say to you on that issue is that I'm pro-choice, Kennedy said when asked for a reason why pro-life voters should support him. I don't think there's anybody in this country who's worked harder for medical freedom, for bodily autonomy than me. His campaign made a similar comment to Newsweek in May. Kennedy believes strongly in the principle of bodily autonomy, whether the issue is abortion or medical mandates. The spokesperson said he will keep government away from women's childbearing choices. The moral issues are best left to women, her family, and her religious community. So at least because we pointed out, I think it was sometime this week, people, and I gave an example of a particular reporter, they would be like force mandates for vaccines and stuff, but also be upset about Roe v. Wade. So this is someone who has a position of you should be able to choose what goes in your body as far as vaccines, and you should be able to choose whether or not you're going to have an abortion. So it seems like at least there's some consistency there. The problem, though, is bodily autonomy is you making decisions about your life, your body, your future, and abortion is you deciding to end someone else's future by ending their life and then expelling their body. So it's not really the same thing. Bodily autonomy is not absolute, and your bodily autonomy doesn't grant you the right to be able to go and kill someone. Now, there are the circumstances where you taking someone else's life may be justified, like in a self-defense kind of scenario. Yeah, sure. But you don't have blanket authority to go ahead and take someone else's life. That just it's not there. We have a right to life, not a right to take someone else's life. So simply saying it's a bodily autonomy issue, it doesn't really correlate there. I can't just take my bodily autonomy and decide to kill you. You can't take your bodily autonomy and decide to kill your newborn or your toddler, etc. There is a conflict of rights issue going on because the baby is in the woman's body. But again, you got to ask yourself how you're going to maximize the most liberty. And in a scenario like that, in most cases, the women are the woman and the men. You got to takes two to tango. The pregnancy is initiated after some actions, most of the time consensual, and then the baby is there. And then so if the natural flow of things happen and nobody does anything, government doesn't get involved, the woman doesn't act out in aggression, because it is an aggressive thing to have an abortion, the baby will just be born. So I believe that maximizing the most liberty is to allow that child's life to not be taken, because in the span of 9 months, you not killing your child versus just allowing them to live for 9 months, like, it's a no-brainer what maximizes the most liberty in that kind of scenario. And so we have conflict of rights issues all the time in this nation. If you want to evict someone, and if you can't just go in there with an axe and say, I'm going to chop you up into pieces and then throw your body outside. No, you would go to court and you would get them evicted, and they'd have some time to gather their things. Even a squatter has rights. So no, you can't just inflict violence to get the immediate sort of self-justice that you want. And that's what you sacrifice when you live in a country that has government. You don't have full authority to live in a chaotic society, and everybody does whatever they please at that moment when you have a government. But the purpose of government is that they're going to, secure your inalienable rights. And the first one is mentioned. That's obviously the most important, because you can't have any other rights if you don't have a life. And so that comes first. It really does. It really does. So, calling it just medical freedom just because you conspire with your doctor to kill someone, I don't think that makes it medical freedom. If your wife's in a coma and the husband and the doctor conspire to kill you, is it medical freedom? Like, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think someone's gonna get in trouble at the end of the day. Anyway, he got, people were angry about his answer, and he walked it back, and it appears that his answer is the same as basically every other Democrat. So he's running as an independent, and I can, I've asked people, including people who follow me, who said they like, Robert Kennedy Jr. And I've asked why, and they said, well, he's an outsider. I'm like, he's a Kennedy, he's not an outsider. And they're like, well, they hate him. They hate him. They hate. Sure, people hate him, especially with his long-standing sort of war with, the jabs and other things like that with vaccines and stuff. But so when you say you're an outsider, I'm assuming I think you at least have to not be a part of some kind of political dynasty. He may be someone off the with different ideas, but a lot of them are the same. Like, he has some big ones that he runs into conflict with, but at the end of the day, he's going to vote a particular way, and there's a reason why he can most of the time exist with a D next to his name. He's not an independent. He's running as an independent because he couldn't get enough traction or help and support or a shot or any sort of fairness running as a Democrat against Joe Biden. So he's running as an independent. And he said before, I don't have the clip pulled up, but I played it for you guys once. He was on a podcast talking about how people criticize him, running against Joe Biden. And they're like, oh, you're hurt Joe Biden. And he's like, running, he's like, no, I take more people away from Trump. That's his opinion. And it's an opinion that I think more people are sharing, that should be concerning. Because if you just want an outsider some people, so many things aren't even about policy right now to some people. A lot of things aren't even about principle to some people. They just want someone who's going to fight on particular things. And he's saying some kind of moderate or safer answers on some big issues now. But so when they look at him, oh, he's a fighter. He's talking about free speech. He's talking about government censorship. He's talking about medical freedom. And of course, medical freedom is going to be a big thing after we just came out of the pandemic. And so many people were coerced, into getting the jab, and people in the military had to get the jab or, to be forced out. And you had medical nurses and other stuff like that who had to lose their jobs or get it, or you had businesses that were forcing people to get it, or or they'd have to like submit to go getting tested, and that money probably coming out of their own pocket. And it just was a mess for a lot of people. And so if you're taking someone's record with the medical freedom, him v. Trump or something, I think a lot of people would maybe side with Kennedy. I think there's more consistency there. So I don't understand CPAC though. Like he's not a conservative, but again, a lot of people are just addicted right now to someone who says a lot of the right talking points and like the right sort of clickbait things and they're enemies of certain people. So that this person doesn't like them. That means that they must be good because this person hates their guts. Like Tulsi Gabbard, like, oh, Hillary Clinton hates her guts. That means that she must be good. And Tulsi has said some good things. I can't say that I all the way trust her yet, because I knew at the time when she's running, she still had some extreme positions that I didn't like either. But and I thought if the Democrats had ran her, she'd be a huge threat to Trump. And if she wants to pull a Kennedy Jr. situation, I think it would be similar if she wanted to run independent, but she wouldn't pull them. She would pull probably some of our side. And I'm not saying it's gonna be a lot. But when some margins of victory are a couple thousand votes, it could obviously be enough. So I'm sure, Kennedy will say some interesting things that people will applaud for and people will like. And I'm not saying that they have to censor people, but it is odd to me. Kennedy's about to. I don't know if he's here. Maybe he's already come. He's supposed to come to Michigan this week. So I don't know how that went. But he's making his rounds. And again, he doesn't have to win a big chunk. And I'm not saying he's going to win a big chunk, but again, the margins are very small. They're like, as I said, like 10,000 votes. That can make a difference between winning a swing state and victory at the Electoral College. So if you really like Kennedy here, that's fine if you like him, but I don't understand if you're conservative, if you're someone on the right and there's certain things and principles that you share, I guess, with me, most people who view themselves to be conservatives, I don't know why you would throw that kind of trust upon him. Now you can elevate and agree with people who you don't like all the time or you wouldn't vote for, and that's fine. But I see too much kind of a love affair with some folks on the right with this guy, and it's weird. Just because the media hates him doesn't mean that he's a good pick. And we have to be more than just. This is a big problem that I'm seeing on the right now is that we like people who are against something rather than people who are for stuff. And they again say the right clickbaity things, and they have the right enemies, and they have a lot of passion, they have a lot of fire. But it's like, okay, well, let's look at their how well they articulate their principles and what they're really rooted in, and how they're going to elevate not just the party but the country as a whole. And those sort of ideas and questions get lost in that. Yeah, but are they going to punch the media metaphorically in the face? Like, that's what I want. I want a fighter, I want someone who's despised and is going to get high on favorables in the polling. I'm like, I just don't think this is a wise idea. Anyway, moving on. I want to play this DeSantis clip which is really great. He started talking about people who moved into Florida, and this moment is so good. He needs to make an ad of it regardless, but it's so good. I'm like, it's amazing if it's all organic, which I assume is organic. It would be really smart if this was a paid for staged moment too. But it's so good, and they need, if they don't cut this as an ad, if I worked for them, I would have immediately cut an ad for this. Immediately cut an ad with this.
Well, it turns out most of these folks were so fed up with what was going on out there that they pick up their lives, their businesses, their families, and they move across the entire continental United States. You did that. There you go. You did that too. You did that too. From California? Okay. Yeah. And so you're seeing that. So that you moved too? Okay. From California? Michigan? Where? New York, Rhode Island? New Hampshire? Where? Nevada? California? Where in California? Oh, San Francisco. You? Where? South Africa. You know, it's a good point. We were the focus of freedom, not just for the United States, for all over the world during COVID. We had people coming here.
I know plenty of people who left to go to move to Florida, and a friend of mine, after our convention didn't go the way, at least that she and a lot of people wanted it to go in February, she's just like, we're done, we're leaving, we got a house, we're going. Like we're gonna make an offer. We're selling our house. Come and visit us sometime, which I'll have to take her up on her offer because I have not been to Florida. And I feel like everybody escaped to Florida during the pandemic, and I didn't go anywhere. I mean, I tried to go to Vegas. That they canceled our flight. It was like when things were first popping off, before like everything was like really, 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 really bad lockdown and stuff. And we were just gonna go to Vegas, go get something to eat, come back home. Like it was like a $30 ticket or whatever, but $30-$40, really cheap. And but they canceled it when we got to the airport, so we just went home. But yeah, I didn't get to go to Florida, so I'm gonna have to take my friend up on her offer and go visit in a bit. Maybe when it gets cold. Go down there and enjoy the free state. Yeah, but it was bad in Michigan, and it was bad in other places. Obviously bad in California, and a lot of people did flee, at least for vacation and stuff. But people packed up their stuff and decided to start a new life in Florida, and they had a really big uptick of people moving in, and different places lost electoral votes and stuff, and Florida is where it's at, and DeSantis making the case that this state, what's being done here, the policies, the leadership, this is obviously the place where people want to be. And that sort of hope that people got fleeing to Florida is a sort of hope that I would like to spread across the country as the president. So, I'm not going to tell you exactly how it cut the commercial or whatever, but I can just see it in my head what they should do, the kind of music, the sort of clips they should use from like the different governors, like Whitmer and stuff. And it was such a good moment. If they staged that with the people in the crowd to be like Michigan, if that was just a planned moment, that was brilliant. If that was organic, that's just amazing. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised in the least bit. So we'll see how things go. Interesting though. I said that I watched a bit of the podcast with Ann Coulter. It's really fascinating, and I know a lot of MAGA people aren't too fond of her anymore, especially because she's reamed on Trump a lot. But she did talk about how their relationship started deteriorating, and it's fascinating. I don't care if you don't like her. It's pretty fascinating. I would go watch the podcast, and she obviously rips him a lot because she doesn't feel like he kept his promises, and that going into, she said he had an amazing campaign. At least, what he was promising, wasn't listening to different consultants. He's just like, this is what the people are saying that they want. Let me pitch what they want and fight for what they want, and then they will vote for me. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. But then she said, instead of hiring some good people, and she listed off some choices that he made that weren't great, and he got rid of a lot of people and she's not wrong. And she lists off some people that he should have had, and then she's like, oh, but he decided to let his son-in-law, who's a liberal Democrat from New York or whatever, push agendas and stuff. So it's an interesting conversation. She still doesn't think he's going to get the nomination, which I think is interesting. And they keep saying, but Ann, the polling isn't. You're a very smart woman. You've obviously been able to kind of predict the future before, but the data like in front of us doesn't make sense with what you're talking about. So she's like, Trump has all the name ID in the world in early sort of polling with every other primary, especially even at this point. You'd have Rudy Giuliani and Newt Gingrich and other folks who are polling pretty high. I don't think not this big of a gap that Trump has with everybody else, but he is like the most insane name ID, and he's a former president running against all the other people. So she thinks there could be a shift, and she thinks that once people have to start voting, that people will kind of check in and look at more policy stuff and then make a better decision. But I don't know if she's right about that or not. I don't know. My sneaking suspicion is that I have a clip that I want to at least play from the conversation, because she thinks that the Democrats are farming out that vote. Basically, they want their plan is for Republicans to vote for Trump, and that's how they think that they will lose, because Trump can't win. That's her opinion. I've expressed that opinion as well. That doesn't mean that Trump, it's impossible for him to win a general election, because Biden is very bad. And, that was basically their plan in 2016. And it obviously backfired. But I do think that she's correct. But at the same time, I think it's possible that Trump doesn't win the nomination, because there's a lot of people who have lost so much because of Trump. And I think I said this after the Fox News lawsuit, when they settled for an ungodly amount of money with Dominion Software, was $700 million or so. I think maybe it's more than that. But I'm like, too many people who have been on the train, like a lot of people have made a lot of money off of supporting Trump and the Trump grift, and still do today, mind you. There's definitely a lot of paid influencers who are financially invested in the success of Trump, or not even the success of Trump, whether he wins or loses. Even if he loses, still promoting him as a brand. And even if it's not a winning brand, it's a victim brand, they still will do well. So there's a grift thing there, but there's a lot of big people that I think might be a little done with this. And I said, I don't think they're going to let him be the nominee. So we'll see what happens. But I want to play Ann's clip right here.
The day after the Alvin Bragg absurd indictment in New York, Trump was dead in the water before that. Nobody showed up at his announcement speech. Fox cut away from it. It was a bore. He was collapsing in the polls. But the smart Democrats, I mean, okay, I'll admit, on MSNBC, they genuinely hate him.
Yeah, big time.
But that dovetails with the smart Democrats like David Axelrod sitting back and saying, okay, here's our re-election plan for Joe Biden. Trick Republicans into nominating Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And man, did Republicans fall for it. Yep. Oh, they're easy to roll. And they keep doing this because every time they do it, I mean, this was the theme of my last book, Resistance is Futile. I kept finding myself at cocktail parties arguing with New York Times reporters, telling them, drop the Russia stuff. It's stupid. This is what you should be attacking him for. There's loads to attack him for. Why are you doing things that you force me to defend him? And that's what they do. They force people like me, and I don't want to defend the man, to defend him by these utterly preposterous indictments. The only one that's at all legit, and it's legit, but should he go to prison for it, is the Florida Mar-a-Lago one. If somebody, and little word to the wise, if you get a subpoena from a DA's office or federal prosecutor's office, you have to comply.
Of course, yeah.
So I agreed with everything that she said in the clip there. What I thought was interesting that I guess I hadn't really put a lot of thought into. Well, I'm aware of the fact that they will do something with Trump, and and I get you guys would probably all agree with this. Is that and maybe you're already like defending him all the time anyway, but he'll do something, and the media will do something, and it'll make you defend him, even if you don't really want to, or even if you're just kind of tired, and it's like of the whole stuff, but you're like, why are you lying about, like, why are you doing, like, you're being unfair, you're doing this, blah blah blah, and even like his competitors and stuff will go out there and defend him, and other politicians will go out and defend him because they don't like the weaponization of the Justice Department, et cetera, blah blah blah. But it's not just that issue, it's all the time. So as she said that, I'm like I know this is a true thing, but is this a planned thing? Like, are there like people in the media, are they like, we're going to make these people, like, we want Trump around for a long time. He's good for our ratings too. And we think he's a killer with the elections, as in, the longer he's in power, the more he's going to nominate people, and those people are going to lose. He's going to lose, etc. If they think he's a drag, do they talk about things and frame it in a particular way that other people will be like, even if they're ready to move on, will they still go, no, I have to defend him, you guys are crazy? Is that pre-planned from the media? That's I guess we'll move that to 5D chess. I just didn't think about I think the plot of them obviously wanting him to be the nominee, I think that's like, there's some thought into that, which he said some people just generally hate him, or genuinely hate him, particularly some people on like MSNBC, other stuff like that. But there are smart Democrats that are like, no, we're going to use the emotional attachments that people have to this man and make people feel like they must elect him, period, because that's the way that they're going to defend him. Like, I have a friend who I had voiced some concerns and some frustrations with Trump, and I basically have been since well, anytime I'm frustrated, I think I'm upfront about it, but particularly since the midterms. And sometimes I get pushback from it, including from people who follow me. And but I'm not in the tank for anybody. I'm just not pushing. I'm just expressing my ideas and my thoughts. And a friend of mine shared similar concerns, and he messaged me and stuff, and he was like, I have similar concerns with Trump and some of the stuff that he's saying, et cetera, blah blah blah. And I haven't talked to him in a minute, but I assume he's really had a problem with some of the stuff he said regarding like pro-life issues recently, because he's very, very pro-life, very strong pro-life Catholic. But I saw a post of his the other day that since like all the indictment stuff, he's like, I feel like we gotta nominate him, we gotta help Trump, and I'm like, those feelings are strong within people. And I think regardless of whether Trump he keeps saying that no one would be going after him if he wasn't running. I don't think that's true, because even when he was, I don't think people are ever going to forget or forgive him for running and successfully winning in 2016. He wasn't supposed to be successful. There was too much egg on too many people's faces. We all got too good of a laugh at them crying in 2016 election night, which you still go back and watch that footage and laugh. And they never forgave him for being successful. Never forgave, even though they want him to be the nominee. They certainly didn't want him to win. They never forgave him, and they will carry their hysteria until the end of time. So in New York, them going after him for the fraud stuff, like I think they'd still be doing that. Bragg's indictment is so dumb. Like, maybe his indictment wouldn't be there, but the Florida thing, like, they knew they were in trouble and probably going to get a subpoena. And from my understanding, Trump wasn't really decided on running until the raid on Mar-a-Lago. And that made a lot of people, be like, oh my gosh, this is third world banana, republic kind of stuff. We can't allow this to happen. And people were quick to come to his defense, and each, indictment makes, people like, I'm going to support him. You get the Trump, mugshot, like, we gotta buy the merch with the mugshot, which I do have mugshot merch, so go check that out. People have such a strong need to defend him, and I do think that's on purpose on their side. Again, I still think they'd be going at him with stuff, because even with the stuff with the January 6th committee and that stuff is still in the news. It's still even if Trump wasn't running, he'd still be running Trump candidates that he'd endorse or whatever, and still would want to retain power in that kind of way. So they'd still, want to get him and have that stuff be in the news to distract from stuff going on with Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, and then his candidates as he would select or whatever, would have to ask questions regarding the man who endorsed him and other stuff like that. So I still think they'd be going at him. Maybe there wouldn't be as many indictments, but there'd be, I don't know, maybe instead of 4, there might be 3 or 2. But and as Ann Coulter said, the Florida one is that one's a problem for him. And I know a lot of people try to ignore it, but a lot of people who try to defend him don't seem to know what he did. So it's the things that are alleged. So if you're like, he did nothing wrong, all the indictments are garbage, go read the superseded Florida indictment. There's some pretty bad stuff in there, but that doesn't mean that he did all those things. They have to prove that. They have to prove it. But it's a liability. I'm just gonna be honest with you. But they're banking on that. They're banking on emotional attachment to make that happen. Now, are there going to be big donors and big establishment people and stuff that are going to try to put a stop to Trump? I think so. From rumblings that I've heard, and I had the suspicion again after the Fox News thing, I'm like, too many people have lost a lot. Like, we've lost a lot of elections, and then there's some people that are associated with Trump that big donor establishment types wouldn't care, like about people impacted, but like Mike Lindell is his lawyers like told the court the other day about they can't pay for like lawsuits and other stuff like that with Dominion, and there's other things that he hasn't paid his lawyers and stuff because he's broke, and some people are just talking about so many people tied and associated with Trump who've lost a lot. And I think that I don't know. I just don't know what's going to happen. I don't know which plan is going to pan out in the end. But if it's not Trump, there are good options out there. There are good options out there. I'm not sure though if anybody is or isn't going to be able to emerge in the primary as things start tightening up and you getting closer to the actual election day. But DeSantis did share similar sort of ideas to Ann Coulter about Donald Trump and the plan for them basically to have him be the nominee, because he said that he energizes Democrats.
A voter that goes to 10 rallies, their vote counts the same as somebody that's unenthusiastic and then goes and votes. And we just have to understand that. And people will act like 2020, they're like, Biden was such a disaster. But here's the thing. I don't think anybody voted for Biden, okay? They were voting against Trump. That was why they did it. I mean, let's just be honest. He energized Democrats. You could have John Kennedy walk through the door right now, and he wouldn't energize Democrats as much as Donald Trump does. That's just the reality. What did we do in Florida with these Democrats? We defeated these Democrats. We left the Democratic Party in Florida in a pile of ruins. They're dead. In fact, if you go back 2019, 2018, or 2019, 2020, the Democrats had like 300,000 more registrations than we did as Republicans. And partially because of our leadership during COVID, that really started to change. So by the time I got reelected in November, we had 300,000 more Republicans than Democrats. And we never had more R's than D's in Florida history. We did that with me being governor. But here's the best part. 300,000 advantage. Today, that advantage is 600,000. We've added another 300,000 advantage in 1 year. I mean, are you kidding me? Yes, ma'am.
So, strong stuff right there from him. It might be too late to make that case. It's a good case. I don't know why he didn't make it earlier though. I don't at all. So, not sure. Does he have enough time to get that message out there while he's still trying to build his name ID and participate in Iowa, New Hampshire, and do the Super Tuesday and all this? I don't know. He's but that's the message. Be on target with but if it's a rematch between Biden and Trump, I don't know. There's always going to be like enthused Trump people to go out and go for him. And there's always going to be people who are like, Republicans and conservatives who feel like, I definitely don't want the Democrat to win. But there's people opposite side, like on the Democrat side, who's like, oh, I might not like Joe Biden, but I don't want the Republican to win. I don't like Joe Biden, but at least they're still, passing stuff for climate change and all the other stuff. And you don't really need enthusiastic voters when you can mail in a ballot. when someone has to stand in a long line and it's raining outside or something, or it could just be raining. You're like, oh, it's election day and it's raining, and you're like, I don't like him that much. That could be a good day for somebody, and usually it's a good day for Republican. At least in Michigan, it's a good day, for Republicans if the weather is bad or something like that. But when you have people who get a ballot mailed to their house and they fill it out or something, and I don't know, somebody picks it up, they harvest or something, that's a really low threshold. In 2020, like, people will say the line like, oh, 81 million votes, Joe Biden, most popular president ever. Oh, I don't believe that. More votes than Obama. That doesn't make sense. Which it's funny because Trump having more votes or whatever than Obama, they don't blink about that. So it's like Biden's is really off, but Trump's is just right. Or you think Trump should have more or whatever. It's not about either one of them being more popular than Obama. It's just the mail-in ballots make the difference. That's the X factor right there. Obviously. It's the mail-in ballots. So, if, Republicans will still go out to the polls voting day, the RNC is trying to change it up and do like a banker vote thing and encourage people to vote early, which they had a really good absentee program, but Trump kind of killed it a bit. And, maybe more people should have voted early. Like, I inherently just have a, well, I don't know if inherent is a good way to say it, but I don't know. I did vote by mail in like 2016 because I had to work on election day, do stuff. So but it just and they, like, I worked for Michigan Republican Party. They're like, you all have to vote early. You guys are going to be working on election day, so make sure that you vote prior to election day. So I got the ballot and went to downtown and filled it out or whatever. But there was just this dread in the back of my mind. It was just like, what if they somehow know I'm a Republican and they just throw out my ballot or something? So I did have that kind of fear, and maybe it wasn't, I don't know, valid enough to be like so stressed about it. But I guess they could do it. That doesn't mean they would do it. But so I felt always funny about the mail, but and it's funny because there was a there was an article that came out about black people not trusting the mail. I don't know if that's racial, like for the same with the ballots or whatever, but I don't know the reason. I don't know the scientific reason for, or the cultural or political reason to why that was, but it was funny when it happened, because I'm like, that's true for me. I don't know how true it is for everybody else, but it's at least true for me. But my dad had COVID in 2020. Allegedly. He went to the hospital. They put him on the COVID floor before they checked him. So who knows? We'll never know. We'll never know the answer to that. Because he certainly got it afterwards. So he couldn't vote. He was too sick to go to vote, on election day. That's usually what my family does. We just go vote in person. So I tried to get him like an emergency ballot or whatever, and they seemed to be annoyed. Like, you had your chance. Like, you definitely had your chance. And I think he's at the age where they send you out like a ballot or whatever. And I think my mom just kind of tossed it, because she's like, well, we just always just go in person. So so that was, I guess, in hindsight, a mistake on our part. But a lot of Democrats will vote early. There was a lot of pressure in 2020 to vote and vote early. So many people voted even before that second debate happened. And I don't think that's how it should be, but unfortunately that's how it is right now. And despite what Vivek Ramaswamy and other people say and want, he's not going to be able to make an election day happen on a federal level to override what states have decided. And it's on our state constitution and stuff to basically allow, a lot of this election stuff now. So, he's not going to win on that. That's just something to get him ahead in the polls. But you got to work with what's working. The question is, who's going to work best with the system. So that's more things we'll have to debate and talk about as this whole election proceeds forward. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. It costs to stream, it costs to run my website, all that stuff, so you guys can support in that way. I very much do appreciate you. I know Ava's on here. I did get your email. I didn't get a chance to look at that article yet, but thank you guys for reaching out and sending it to me. If you guys do need to reach out in any kind of way, best way, I do check my Twitter often. But you can go to the website and just go to contact and leave something in there. That's the best way to if you have, I don't know, something to check out or anything like that. I know some people like going on Instagram. I did not go to Instagram enough. I'm trying to be better about it, but I haven't really been better about it. So my website's the best way to get a hold of me. Check out different merchandise that we have at the store. I did briefly mention that I had a Trump mug thing, and I'm gonna just go to it and yeah, this has been a bit of a grifting thing, but if you guys want to buy it, you want to buy it. That's is what it is. And it took some time to make this. This is way better than any other mug shot thing I have seen. So I'm going to show it to you. And it took a minute to make it, because I made this gold chain that's around his neck. This is 2024. So, and I showed it to one of my sisters. She's like, "Oh, that goes pretty hard." So, I'm going to show it to you guys. Let me widen this out. So there's a hoodie, there's a mug, and there's a t-shirt. And the hoodie, I think, says something on the back too. Yeah. MAGA for life. I know a lot of people have been selling stuff. I think mine is the best. So you guys can go ahead and check that out at blacktnews.com. There's other merch. There's, like pro-life merch. There's stuff with black tea on it. So go ahead and check it out. Check out my books that are available on Amazon. Like my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. It covers rights and science and philosophy and all that other kind of stuff. And it's a good read. So go ahead and check it out. Also, my youngest sister isn't in the live today. I don't see her, but she did the artwork for the cover here. So with the hand of God reaching out to the baby there. So she is actually having like a showcase. Sometimes I share some of her like mini portraits on like YouTube and other places. And she goes live like every week where she paints stuff, but it's probably more than once. But I guess at this point, 'cause she's monetized on Twitch, she'll stream it on Twitch and then post clips at other places. But she's having a showcase. It's either going to be in November or December. So if anyone's like local to Michigan and would like to come, you're more than welcome to come. And if you are interested in just getting any of the art, we're going to set up something that's like virtual or whatever. So you guys will be able to, buy things if you would like any of those that are. So she has some really incredible stuff. There's one thing she's going to have that's going to be finished that she's been working on. I bought her this huge canvas in 2015, I think. And so she's been working on a painting for some years, and it's going to be done. It's really cool, and a lot of things she has that she bases it off of. She's inspired by a scripture or something. Will make some kind of really cool landscape or something like that. So she's got a busy end of the year coming up because we're both going to be at like Motor City Comic Con together. So she usually sells a lot of like her mini paintings, and and she also has like stuff of like different anime characters and other stuff like that people buy. But yeah, she's really excited about it. So I'm gonna like make some promos and stuff for her. So I'll be promoting the heck out of my little sister. So I just, we talked about it last night. So I just wanted to share information. I don't know the date. It's either gonna be in November, December, like early December, and I'll let you know. Because my other sister's having a baby, so we're helping out and stuff with that. So we're trying to coordinate our life around all these like wonderful things, and I'm looking forward to it. So I appreciate you guys watching and being interested in me, and I thank you guys for those who show me support, who watch every day, who comment. That means the world to me. And those of you who go the extra mile, who have financially supported, those who bought like stuff online, and those of you who have shown your support and extended it toward my family, and particularly my younger sister, that is so very important to me. So thank you, and I will let you know when the date is and how you can participate if you would like to. Enjoy your weekend, guys. I hope it is a blessed weekend, and we'll get to a lot of news. There's a Candace Owens thing that I wanted to share and talk about today, but I didn't pull up the stuff in time. I talked about a clip that went viral yesterday a little bit, or maybe it was the day before yesterday. I can't remember, but there's another clip that's wild, and the guy who asked the question at a Q&A is actually on TikTok. So maybe I'll have to do like a separate video or just do a short or something about it, but it's pretty nuts. But I just wanted to throw that out there. And if I don't end up having time to do it this weekend, you have something to look forward to on Monday. But God bless you guys, and I'll see you on Monday.